Welcome to Fly on the Wall, a podcast where you have the opportunity to listen in on a live coaching conversation. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And now for today's episode.
Welcome to Fly on the Wall. Today we are talking with Pastor Dan from Clovis, California on how small churches can do big things. Let's jump into the conversation. How can I serve you today?
One of the things that is kind of concerning in a smaller church is volunteers and trying to have people come alongside and then also commit. We do have an older congregation, so sometimes it's difficult. Some people have served in capacities before, and now they're saying, you know, I've served long enough. I need to have a break, and it's trying to find some other people to fill those places that they have once filled. So that's been something, and I've tried to use the idea that you've shared with us in the past, talking about, can you mentor someone to come alongside of you before you decide to step down? And one of those areas was the ladies ministry. She is stepping down, and so she has been talking to a couple of ladies. And so I told them, I said, one lady doesn't have to just always lead the Bible study. Maybe you could get a team of ladies together to share with the Bible study and such. So that's what they're doing. And so that was something they're implementing starting in August. So that was something that, I think I gleaned from your conversations and some of the books that I've read and some of the coaching. And one of the other things is the cohorts, if I can put a plug for cohorts. Okay. I'm part of the Lance's cohort, and it's just been really great. This last one that we did in June was on values, and just took a great number of notes, and I wanting to implement more of that idea. That's a plug for cohorts and being involved.
Yeah. So help me understand, are you talking about, well, thank you for plugging the cohorts. Anybody that's listening, just go to churchboom.org. We've always got cohorts starting all the time, but love to get you in a cohort, and they're a group of guys that are just learning together. Back to the original, what you were talking about before, what's the specific question that we're looking at?
Trying to help people mentor other people to volunteer. So if you're stepping down from a place, how can I encourage those people that are stepping down before you step down? Could you have somebody shadow you, come alongside of you, that kind of thing?
I think the way that it always starts, I think everything starts at the top. I think everything starts with leaders. I think everything starts with, I've said it a million times, culture is created at the top and supported at the bottom. So probably going to be difficult. I've preached at your church, and like you said, it's an aging congregation, but probably one of the things that you're going to find is it's difficult to change them. However, if it was me, and I've worked with plenty of churches that are revitalization and old aging conversation, I'll say it's got to start somewhere. It's got mentoring, developing mentors, what I call mentors, developing apprentices. It should happen. It is what 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 2 is all about. How do we apprentice people? And it should start at the top. So now you look at your key leaders, your stipend staff, the person over whatever, children, or the person over the worship or whatever. It's got to start with 4 or 5 of you. Let's say, look, we're going to figure out how to apprentice people. So worship person, I need you raising up 2 people. Children's person, I need you raising up 2 people, or 1 person, or whatever. It's got to start at the top. If it has a chance of culture shifting in the church, where we are leaders who are always raising up leaders, and that's what we should be, it's always, Dan, going to start at the top. Culture is always created at the top, supported at the bottom, and it's got to start. So if it was me, I'd bring 3 or 4 people in the room, your key people, your stipend people, and just be like, I would teach on apprenticing. I'd give them the idea of what this looks like. Then I'd give them a deadline. Who are you going to apprentice? Start apprenticing in the next 30 days. Who are you going to start apprenticing? Let them submit names to you, and let that become part of, hey, if you're on the staff, that's just part of it. We apprentice. And over time, it'll blend down to everyone else. But if you just kind of say it to your team and then kind of walk away, I don't think it'll happen. I think you gotta set a deadline on when they're going to do that. Yeah.
One of the things that I struggle with in an older congregation because of being small, or everybody says, well, talk to the pastor about this, talk to the pastor about that. And sometimes when they have come to me, I said, you don't have to come to me for everything. You can make a decision on what you're needing to do.
Right.
You know? And so that I'm trying to train them that they don't have to come and run it through the pastor all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm trying to help them understand that aspect of mentoring them and apprenticing them. And I appreciate, the apprenticing part, because that's, one of the things that's very difficult for some of these older folks is to, they want to let go, and they're going to let go, but they don't want to let go, if you know what I mean, So I appreciate that.
Well, when you're apprenticing, just real quick, when you're apprenticing, like if I was talking to your staff right now, I'd say, guys, here's really how you apprentice. And I think you and I've talked about it before, but for those that are listening, maybe never heard this. If I'm apprenticing you for Children's, I'm apprenticing you to be a small group leader. I'm the leader, but I'm apprenticing you. It's the simple 5-step. I do, you watch, we talk. I do, you help, we talk. You do, I help, we talk. You do, I watch, we talk. Now you go do for someone else.
Right.
And you got to literally, think of it as if you're a phenomenal contractor and I'm your apprentice, I'm going to walk with you. You're going to show me exactly how to do stuff. If I'm a resident doctor, I got to be a resident, I got to learn. It's the same thing here. If you're going to be a worship leader, show me how. If you're going to be a head of a small group or whatever, show me how. But we got to it won't start with everybody, but if you can get it with 3 or 4 people in your team, it'll make a difference.
Yeah. Okay.
Very important though. Got to be raising up the next generation of leaders, and we don't do a really good job with that.
Yeah, exactly. I think navigating change is always difficult, no matter who you are, where you're at.
Yeah.
You could be a church plant. Obviously, it's going to be change is difficult.
Yeah.
Navigating that change, and there's been a lot of changes since I've been here. Well, it'll be 29 years in August, so that's I'm telling my age now. So
yeah,
but it's been good. It's been exciting to see what God is doing and raising up people that come alongside and such. So I think that's one of the things. One of the things that keeps running in my head about what you've said is celebrating those wins, celebrating those people that have done something well, and you call them out. I was raised under a pastor that was afraid to do that. Mm-hmm. And when I was a youth pastor, he was afraid to acknowledge people, because then he was afraid that he was going to miss somebody, and then they're going to have their feelings hurt and that kind of thing. So helping people understand that we can celebrate the wins, and we can celebrate that individual for inviting 3 or 4 people to church that day, and they came, those kinds of things, and celebrate, and they maybe got saved, or they got baptized or something, so it's great to be able to come alongside that. So I think, the apprenticing thing that you shared earlier, that's something I need to do.
Yeah.
And getting those key leaders in the room, so to speak, and say, okay, this is what we need to do. So where would I find some teaching on apprenticeship or developing apprentices, that type of thing?
Yeah, I tell you, years ago, Dave Ferguson. If you Google Dave Ferguson apprenticing, he is really good at it. He's got Dave's a great friend. He's got a lot of great material on apprenticing. I took all of it, stole it, and made it my own. So Dave, if you're listening to this, it's now in my new book. No, but Dave's got some great stuff on it, on apprenticing, which I am a big fan of. Yes. Is apprenticing one-on-one with people and raising up what I call the next tier 2 and tier 3 leaders. I think that that a leader's strength is found more in their absence than in their presence. Mm-hmm. When they're not around, what happens? When they're not around, what happens to that ministry? If it all falls apart, then you didn't develop any leaders. Mm-hmm. So I think the strength comes in not in your presence, but in your absence. So anyway, Dave Ferguson, apprenticing, he's a master at it. And he's written some great stuff on it.
I read through his book, Hero Maker.
Great book. Yeah, it's like a book or two before that. But if you Google it, there's articles on it. I mean, he's got stuff that are just kind of like, because he wrote it in one of his books, but it was like just 1 or 2 chapters. And I think he did kind of an appendix, if you will, of the big book down to just a, but if you just Google Dave Ferguson, apprenticing, it'll come up.
Yeah. Okay.
It's what years ago is what he was known for.
One of the other questions that I had was, is there ever an opportunity that we as a smaller church to join with maybe another church who has like a youth ministry and children's ministry, which we're kind of really thin on youth ministry right now, to join together with another church to work with them?
You're talking about from a department standpoint?
Yeah, from a department standpoint.
Oh yeah. Man, when I was a youth pastor, we had 1 or 2 churches that just, were very, very small in the area. We had a very large youth ministry, and we just invited them over. We took care of them. It was just a way of just loving on them. And even in one case, we were able to grab one of the adults from the other church, and they came over for about 6 months, learned how to do what we did, and then went off and did it at their church. I think that's a great idea. And if you can find someone locally to be able to help do that, I think smaller churches that can, find a church that's maybe a little bit ahead of them, glean from them, learn from them, utilize some of their resources. There's enough kingdom-minded churches out there that would love to help out in that area.
Yeah. I have reached out to another church that's just probably less than a half a mile from us, and they said, sure, we'd be open to something like that. They've got a, youth gathering midweek and such, and so they said, sure, that's not a problem. So I just need to kind of sell it, so to speak, to the parents of the couple of 2 or 3 young people that we have coming here, and then just say, hey, if you're interested as a parent, want to just sit in on that youth meeting and maybe glean some things from that, and maybe you could come back and be part of that youth ministry here at our church.
Yeah, no, it's great. I love it.
Something like that. So we have some other people that are involved with that as well.
Absolutely. So,
cool. We have another church that I got a call from yesterday. We're really thin in, unfortunately, because of technology and everything, and because of COVID and having to stream and do those kinds of things. I guess, what are some of the things that other churches are doing in regards to streaming? It's now the norm. Sure. And we have a problem trying to get technical people. We have just 1 or 2 people that, are willing to do that, because the rest of them are saying, I don't know it enough to be able to do it, and I'll mess up. So what are you finding that churches, like smaller churches, we do stream live service on Sunday morning. We do the best that we can with what we have. So we're trying to broaden that base of volunteers so that those people that are the 1 or 2 that are doing it can have some time away, take a break, that kind of thing too.
So you're streaming right now, currently, Dan, you're streaming live services from beginning to end.
Correct.
One of the things you might want to consider, I was working with a bunch of churches out in the Midwest and also East Coast that are smaller, right. Don't have the, their worship is, okay. It's not like stellar worship. Right. So one of the things that I talked to them about, and I've had a couple other leaders that do some coaching and consulting and have found great success with, is don't try to deliver the whole package. Just deliver the message.
Okay.
And it might go on later, I don't know, but man, when you do live music, it sounds bad unless you have a killer system. And even think about it for a moment. YouTube, some rock concert, and just someone that held their phone in the 10th row, and was listening to their favorite band. It sounds horrible. It's like the Eagles, and they're like amazing musicians, and it sounds horrible when they do that. So I can only imagine that, at least I know, worship sounds really like thin and Oh, it just sounds bad. So, and I know that from my own experience. I know that from watching a lot of other churches. I know that from watching some guy that filmed the Eagles, or whatever, with some band or whatever. And I'm just like, it sounds horrible. So why do all that? Why not just maybe have a host at the beginning? Hey, want to welcome you to so-and-so church, blah, 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 blah. Pastor Dan's going to be talking about this today, da, 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 da. Let's jump right into it. Boom, you teach. And then at the very end, hey, thanks for checking out Pastor Dan today. If you want to give, you can do it this way. If you ever need help, contact us through this. So it's host, message, host, done. That's what I would do. I think it will minimize the amount of work that needs to be done, and it will radically improve the excellence.
Yeah.
And
I have a friend that's pastoring another church here in Clovis area, and they've gone away from streaming live, and they're doing what you just said. They just post the message, and they actually record it, and then they post it later in the week or something, and and post it up and let people see it that way. And it's kind of driven people that have been watching online to go back to church, to be participatory in the in-person worship. They can still receive the message, but they don't do the song service. They don't do anything like that. They just put the messages up there, and
that's it.
And it's powerful,
Yeah,
really
I love it. I love it.
So you're seeing that because of being a smaller church. You're seeing churches our size or whatever just posting the messages.
Oh yeah, 100%, absolutely, because it's so hard to make everything else excellent.
Oh yeah,
6 camera angles, and it's just hard. And I love what we're talking about here, Dan, because we're talking about 80% of all churches are relatively small, no matter what denomination they are, Baptist, Assemblies of God, Foursquare, whatever. 80% of all churches are relatively small. So I love we're talking about things that small small churches can do that are bigger. So why can't you apprentice? Why can't you start developing a second generation of leaders? Everybody should be doing that.
Yes.
That's a great thing. Any size church can do that. Any size church can do a host, message, then a host. You don't have to do the big production. Any size church can do that. And it'll come across even more excellence if you do it that way. So I love that we're talking about how small churches do big things. I think it's great.
Yeah, exactly. And still trying to, minister to people in the community and such. And one of the things that, have you heard about or been involved with, like where people are doing like Facebook prayer ads and such, where people are ministering in that regard and in response to those?
I think anything, I love the social media side of it. And that's another thing a small church can do and be big, is how do we not only pastor the city, but how do we not only pastor the church, but how do we pastor the city?
City, correct.
Yeah, it's like, you can do that. Why not? Why can't you take on, 4 serve Saturdays a year where we just figure out how to connect with people in our city? And it might not, it could be, hey, the typical is let's go to the God's Kitchen and feed the homeless. Well, maybe that's good. But what if the elementary school, just their teacher's lounge is a mess and it just needs cleaned up and repainted? Great. What a great way to love teachers. Yep. What a great way to love maybe the civil service. What a great way to love a high school or Parks and Rec. There are other things to do, and you don't have to be a big church to do it. There's a church that I work with that, and I mean, they're good size. They're a couple hundred people. They're not mega. There's other churches in the city that run thousands. Now watch this. There's other churches in the city, I won't name the city or the person, that run thousands. They run probably 200. The other churches run thousands. A lot of them do. They're in a big city. Well, somehow the mayor, they've been doing so much over the last 2 years for the schools, high school, middle school, elementary schools, for the teachers' lounge, for the gymnasium, for the Parks and Rec, for the handicap things that the city tries to take care of. All this stuff, incredible amount of serve Saturdays they've done over the last 2-3 years. Well, recently I'm talking to him on the phone. He goes, "You ain't gonna believe this." He goes, "The mayor calls me and says, 'Hey, Pastor, I heard now he's got church of 200, which I'm not saying is, small, but when you're packed in between 8 other churches running 1,500, 2,000, 5,000, you're pretty small."
Yeah.
So the mayor says, hey, I heard, Pastor, that you're moving. And he says, what do you mean? He goes, I heard that you're moving, that you're resigning and moving. He goes, that's not me. And the mayor goes, oh, thank goodness. He goes, I don't know what we would do in this city if you weren't here. I love that. Because here's this guy, small church doing big things. Small church, big things. Like he ain't calling all the other churches in town.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, hey, this is a crazy, ironic statement. But if you really want to stand out in your city, just serve.
Yes.
Because no one's saying, hey, elementary teachers lounge, how do we take care of you? What if you did donut drops every Monday, where you've targeted 3 schools, and every Monday morning at 7 a.m., donuts would arrive with a little note from your friends in the church. We love you. We appreciate you, whatever. Just little things that make the community start realizing that you're there. They're not big things that you have to do. They're not expensive things you have to do, but they're things that make a huge splash.
Yes.
And I love it. I love it.
One of the things that we have done in the past is that the Columbus Police Department, we have gone and given them a meal. We've shared, some of our folks have brought in food from here, and then we take it down to the police station, and the police officers, through their routine of the day, come in and help themselves to whatever. And then we also, throughout the year, whenever there's a need for snacks and things, we provide snacks for the police department and such too. So those opportunities that we have,
I love it. I love it. Well, Dan, our time's coming to a close, but I want to encourage you with this. I think that small churches can do big things. You have to get creative. You got to start thinking through. You got to start prioritizing. How do we raise up leaders? Small church can do that. How do we make our online excellent? We can do that if we just change how we do it. How do we impact the city? We don't have to be the church of 3,000. I mean, I just heard that this week. The mayor's freaking out, going, wait a minute, don't leave. And he's like, I'm not. And that's what we're looking for. And so, Dan, I think small churches can do big things. And it's just a matter of getting creative and figure that out. Get it to the point where the city would fear if you left because of what you do in that community. And I think it could be awesome. So
thank you.
Yeah, Dan, you're awesome. Thanks so much, man, for being on today's podcast. And I'm always here to serve you and help you in any way. But thanks, buddy. Have an awesome day, my friend. See you, bud. Bye-bye.
Thanks for stopping by today. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and to be on the lookout for more podcasts from Fly on the Wall. See you next time.